I think this game is about me taking out the devil worshippers, and I gotta be honest with you, if you're looking for Lucifer, I got a few questions I'd like to ask you. Alright, let's jump in. I don't know a lot about this game. Someone brought it up in my stream when I was looking to add stuff to my backlog, and I looked it up and it sounded sick, and then I found out that I had it from one of the itch bundles, so, like, that's what I know. It's like a... it's a interactive video game. Interactive video experience. A 100 years without murder, 100 years without demonic possession. Then this. I am Sister Ada, exorcist and investigator. This is my testament to the massacre at St. Walpurgis Abbey. It is truth. Do not believe the lies of my accusers. Why do they have a cybernetics
Sister
workshop?
Ada, welcome. I am Virgil, Chief Inquisitor at St. Walpurgis Abbey. We may be in need of your talents as an exorcist.
I'm stoked that we have voice acting.
You can survey the evidence yourself, but I think you will agree.
Has there truly been a murder?
How do you know someone's been murdered? Well, we did find a dead body. Yeah.
It seems so. A respected priestess, Mother Miriam,
Yeah.
passed this morning under suspicious circumstances. A demon may be present. Here, even now, possessing someone.
Alright, how much holy water do we have? And, as a follow-up question, does anyone have a spray bottle?
What happened, exactly?
Mother Miriam was only recently appointed as successor to Abbot Gregory. This morning, she came to the workshop to receive her coronet of office.
Something went wrong with the installation.
Yes, to put it mildly, the coronet oversurged, killing Mother Miriam. Brace yourself for the sight.
Alright, this might get gruesome, y'all.
Then, the workshop operators, Gideon and Reuben, are the prime suspects. They are brothers, right?
Yes, but it's highly out of character for Gideon or Reuben to kill someone.
It was... So which people do you know that you feel like it's in character for them to kill someone?
Even so, they were the only ones present when Mother Miriam died.
Daemons nurture our sinful desires into unthinkable actions, Virgil. One of the brothers has surely been seduced by a daemon.
Surely.
Whichever it is, I will unmask his lies and cast out the daemon within him.
May Ein Soth's will be done. Amen.
Ein Soth? Alright, now I'm starting to think that this may not be a Christian sect.
To exorcise a daemon, we must uncover 4 things. First, the suspect. We must identify which sinner is possessed by a daemon.
I just want them to say demon. The AE is pronounced E, like Caesar. I just want them to say demon, please.
Second, the opportunity. When exactly was the murder committed? We can pinpoint the opportunity by analyzing each suspect's testimonies. Third, the means by which the murder has been committed. The means can be found among the physical evidence at the scene of the incident. Fourth, the motive of the murderer, which can be found in their inner world. their sanctum. The motive will tell us which daemon possesses the sinner.
I'm gonna wince every time I hear it.
Very well. Let us begin our holy work.
Okay, so I click to move around. Can I move with cursor control? Alright, no, keyboard controls don't do anything for me here.
This is madness! I will not suffer this injustice!
He did it.
I am Gideon the Grand, the greatest cybernetician of our generation. I am blessed. I don't know what went wrong this morning. My hands are guided by the divine.
I see only gaudy trinkets here.
Okay, well, don't be a shithead.
Mother Miriam died by your hands. Is that not so?
Oh, that's how this is gonna run. We're just gonna run up to people and be like, you did it, right? Just admit to it. Confessions retrieved under duress hardly feel like they're valid confessions. Oh, did we stop getting voiceover? Did I do something, or is there only a certain amount of it? Access detailed descriptions of events by hovering over them. Manipulate the timeline marker to navigate to any moment in the testimony. Where did the voiceover go?
Mother Miriam came to me for her consecration ceremony. I've performed this many times before, so I was confident. To prepare for the ceremony, I ordered Reuben to take Mother Miriam to the consecration chamber. Meanwhile, I adjusted the coronet's amplifier.
Re-examine what he said about Miriam's arrival.
To prepare for the ceremony, I ordered Reuben to take Mother Miriam to the consecration chamber. Mother Miriam came to me for her consecration ceremony.
Okay.
To prepare for the ceremony, I ordered Reuben to take Meanwhile, I adjusted the coronet's amplification at my work table, and then placed it on Mother Miriam's head.
So he took the coronet. This is a really cool system. Like, it's just very cool. Like,
We began by closing our eyes and praying together to Ein Sof. I thought I heard the chamber open, but didn't think much of it. Then I activated the consecration chamber and began the ceremony itself. The aether output was within safe ranges.
I'm sorry, the input device is a organ manual? That rules. Oh, that's unfortunate.
An exorcist? Surely there are no demons here, though. This was an accident, wasn't it? If Gideon is possessed, that would mean he did it on purpose. Horrible.
Just the overall presentation of this is actually really, I think, fascinating. I think this is a really fascinating presentation of the information you have available. Smite, thank you so much for the raid.
You must be the elder brother.
Yes, my name is Ruben Garamond. I am responsible for the engineering and design of
Smite,
our
welcome.
plans.
Welcome, Raiders. I assume you're just getting here from Power Wash Simulator Tournament. You are joining us right at the very beginning of a crime-solving drama about some religious sect and the demons that are infiltrating their sacred order.
How did Mother Miriam die, exactly?
It was a completely preventable accident. Mother Miriam died because Gideon deliberately flouted the ceremonial guidelines for his own glory.
Wow.
Gideon may be my flesh and blood, but he must take responsibility for his negligence.
Yeah, let us hear what he has to say.
Mother Miriam came to us to receive a consecration ceremony, but she wanted something extravagant. Gideon suggested setting the coronet to have maximum ether output. I warned him that doing so is highly dangerous. Gideon convinced her to move forward with the ceremony anyway. Since he was going to handle everything, I went back to my tasks. When Gideon activated the consecration chamber, I immediately felt something was wrong. I begged Gideon to stop, but he didn't listen.
I'm sure it's going to tell me what all these things mean, but like corroboration and specificity, like why was this immediately marked as corroborated? I'm sure I'll discover the answer to that. This seems like a tutorial segment. Deduction. Since there can only be one truth, if two things don't align, one or both of them are false. If Gideon and Reuben do not agree on something, someone is lying. Or if they do not, if what they say does not match the evidence, then they must be lying. That's my theory on what I discover. If my theory does not align with any of the testimonies or evidence, then I should discard it. Two theories are possible, then I should prefer the one that has more information that supports it. So this was removed from the coronet, is I think what I'm supposed to be inferring here.
Meanwhile, I adjusted the coronet's amplification at my work table, and then placed it on Mother Miriam's head.
It seems like I'm supposed to recognize that adjusting the coronet was him removing the limiter. There's probably more to this, though. Parts of the amplifier component and bits of the casing have survived the explosion. Okay. Let's see what Ruben was working on. Plans for constructing the ether coronet. The Devil's Herb. Over here on Ruben's workstation, exactly like I thought. You want to tell me about this, my guy? Yeah, I wonder why. Wonder why he'd be skittish. Dullard brother. God. Alright, well, I hope this guy did it and he gets nailed to the wall for it. Well beyond safe ranges.
But Gideon suggested setting the coronet to have maximum ether output.
To prepare for the...
Gideon convinced her to move forward with the ceremony anyway. Since he was going to handle everything, I went back to my...
Lies unmasked. Okay. Has a shorter time frame and describes a clearer set of events. I can enter his brain? No. Don't let me enter people's brains. That's messy. I don't... I have proof that he wasn't. So I have a bunch of things I can present to people to get them to talk about. It seems like it's kind of clue rules, essentially. I have to present the means, the opportunity, and evidence in order to get them to cop to it. I'm not sure. So I don't actually think he's the guy who did it. I think I'm trying to get him to cop to it.
Mother made to prepare for the ceremony. Meanwhile, I adjusted the...
Since Gideon, they decided... Since Gideon was going...
Meanwhile, I adjusted the coronet's amplification at my work table, and...
Yeah, the motive part is the one that I don't think I have. It's pride, right? Like, that's the... That's the demon at play here. So I think I have to, like...
We be... Mother, then I rose up, opened my eyes, and approached the control panel. I was ready to begin. The aether output was dangerously high, but I had the chamber under control.
And there we go. So here's the part where I'm gonna get that he's prideful. Narcissist. Ooh. It really isn't taking that, huh? So there must be more to this than I realize. Man, it seemed like a slam dunk for me that it would be... narcissism.
Meanwhile, I adjusted the coronet's amplification at my work table, and then placed it on Mother Miriam's head. With the aether output.
When Gideon activated the consecration chamber, I immediately felt something was wrong. Since Gideon was going to handle everything, I went back to my tasks. So I opened the consecration chamber to verify that the coronet was in working order. Everything seemed fine, so I returned to my desk again. So I opened the consecration.
Envy.
Everything seemed fine, so I returned to my... When Gideon activated the consecration chamber, I immediately felt something was...
Hmm.
Since Gideon was going to handle everything, I went back to my tasks. So I opened the consecration chamber to verify that the coronet was in working order. Everything seemed fine, so I returned to my desk again.
I don't think I have anything for that. Do I have an accusation? I mean, motive would probably be envy. He removed the limiter.
Ein Sof sees all, Reuben. You killed Mother Miriam to frame Gideon and take him down a peg. With Gideon gone, a daemon whispered that people would finally recognize you for your genius.
I am older than Gideon. My work is better than Gideon, and more important. But no one sees my work. No one understands my work.
Confess, Reuben. Tell us what the daemon made you do.
Yeah. I can see inside your brain!
Demonic corruption runs deep within Reuben's soul. Yet Reuben may still be saved. I must speak the daemon's true name. Then the daemon will be cast out. Ein Sof, guide me. What daemon has possessed Reuben? Out, Lotan! Leave this soul and return whence you came!
Magnificently done, Madam Exorcist.
The power of Ein Sof compels you, Lotan. Leave this soul and return to the ether!
Thousands of years, and you humans never change. Never satisfied, always comparing, wanting more. Someone else is always richer, prettier, wiser, better. Nothing can ever fill that void within you. Not even me.
Silence, Lotan. Reuben may yet be redeemed.
Yeah, get his ass.
You are a scourge. Without your influence, a good woman would still be alive. Leave humans be, Lotan. I banish you to the ether!
As you wish, but I'll return soon enough. My prince and master Lucifer walks among you.
Ah!
Lucifer will open the gates of hell, and at last, humanity will remember its full potential. Until then, Madam Exorcist, adieu.
He said among you. What are you talking about? He said among you.
Come forth, Reuben. What remains of you?
Thank.
He's silent and still. Poor soul. Rest, Reuben. Heal, if you can.
Sister Ada, you've returned. Was there a demon at work after all?
I'm afraid so. The exorcism was a success. Reuben's soul has been purged. Unfortunately, the daemon was difficult to cleanse. Reuben is returned to pure innocence.
What? The exorcism shattered his mind? Can you bring him back?
It's out of my hands. If Ain Suf wills it, maybe Reuben will heal.
Guards, please escort this shell to the cryostasis cellar. I pray for his swift recovery. Abbot Gregory!
Okay, that guy looks like a Satan. Is this guy a Satan?
Praise be to Ein Sof, Sister Ada. You have saved us all.
By the end of the game, this guy's gonna turn out to be a Satan.
On behalf of everyone at St. Walpurgis, I express our utmost gratitude.
We are not yet safe. We must act quickly until we locate the source of the demonic influence. We don't understand yet why demons would act after 100 years. Holy Father, we must quarantine the abbey and the surrounding town immediately. Detain and interrogate anyone who seems suspicious.
We can try, Sister Ada, but it will be difficult, as we have visitors arriving hourly. Much like yourself, pilgrims from afar are here to celebrate Walpurgisnacht.
I am here to celebrate Walpurgisnacht.
It's such a shame Mother Miriam couldn't bear witness to it.
Ah, yes, the priestess. We must destroy her body and traces of demonic influence may remain from her contact with Reuben.
No, Sister Ada, thank you for your concern, but we absolutely cannot. Mother Miriam was a prominent figure and well-loved, with decades of service. We must treat her body with dignity and give her a proper burial. Send Mother Miriam's body to the mortuary for embalming.
Oh no, she's gonna come back as a zombie.
Your Excellency, we really ought to take the advice of the exorcist.
Mother Miriam's body has been desecrated enough, Virgil. Send her to the mortuary, now.
As you command, Your Excellency.
Holy Father, you are making a grave mistake.
He's a Satan.
Sister Ada, don't worry yourself. All will be well. St. Walpurgis' triumph over Lucifer has brought us a century of peace and bliss. It's horrifying that a demon was exorcised from our abbey, but surely it was the final remnant.
Of course.
The daemon within Reuben spoke of Lucifer's return. Lucifer's ways are insidious. Even the most devout among us have
I cannot believe she said it. Stop. It's 2022. You can't just say Among Us.
It's a shame Brother Reuben fell to the demon. But the rest of my flock is stronger. Faith shall be their shield. Now, please excuse me. This evening's Mass requires my attention. We are honored by your presence, Sister Ada. Praise be to Ein Sof.
Even the Holy Father can be foolish then, Ein Sof. Let it not be true that Lucifer walks. But if it is, Ein Sof, guide me, that I may unmask all lies, no matter how painful.
The demon's final words haunted me. Lucifer was already Amogus. I wanted to destroy Mother Miriam's body to purge any traces of demonic influence. Abbot Gregory did not heed my words. Mother Miriam was to be given a proper burial. That afternoon, Inquisitor Virgil sent for me, asking urgently to meet him at the graveyard.
Praise Ein Sof. Thank you for coming to our aid so quickly, Sister Ada.
You said it was urgent. Has something happened to Mother Miriam's body?
No, in some ways, that would have been easier. There is now a second untimely death.
Another murder. On the very same day. This can't be a coincidence.
It could be a coincidence. You don't know, people trip and fall all
That
the time.
isn't for me to say, but this time, the victim is a younger acolyte named Isaac. His remains were found in the grave that was dug for Mother Miriam. Poor kid's throat was slit.
Sometimes people trip and fall onto garrote wire. You never know.
Gruesome. Who was at the graveyard when the body was found?
Only 3 people were present this afternoon. A scholar, an embalmer, and a grave tender. Father Augustine is a scholar, visiting for Mother Miriam's funeral. The victim was his apprentice. Sister Nerissa, an embalmer with a sterling reputation, preparing Mother Miriam's body for burial. Finally, Abraham, the grave tender, a layman who has kept the grounds of the abbey for many years.
Yeah, go for it, Grigor.
None of them say they were near the grave until after the body was discovered.
Which means someone is lying.
Whoa. Jumping to conclusions much. He could have tripped and fallen onto garrote wire. We all agreed that that was a possibility.
No matter. Ein Sof sees all. We will unmask their lies and bring the truth forward. I swear it.
You know, I have a deep appreciation for the fact that this game gets to the fucking point. Thank you. Devs, if you see this, can I just say, thanks for getting to the point.
You must be Father Augustine. The victim was your apprentice, correct?
Correct. And you are Sister Ada, the exorcist. It is a unique pleasure.
Knowing that I don't have to wade through 2 hours of exposition to finally get to the point where I can tell someone that they're full of shit is really nice. Fine, apprentice. If I find you guilty, you'll find the experience to be unpleasant.
I arrived at the graveyard with Isaac for Mother Miriam's funeral. Isaac headed to the mortuary on a minor errand. Then I passed through the graveyard until I saw the statue of Saint Walpurga. What craftsmanship, and so well maintained. For most of the afternoon, I was walking through the graveyard, merely observing and admiring.
Admiring this dick.
At sunset, I wandered to the back area to meet with Isaac. I was surprised to find an open grave with something inside. Not Isaac. I was horrified to discover that it was Isaac's dead body. That's when I called for help. And for most... For most of the afternoon, I was
Okay, so I gotta prove he was doing something else. Got
At
it.
sunset, I was horrified to discover that it was Isaac's dead body. That's when I called...
First to arrive at the grave. Got it. Alright. Got some relevant details.
Release me! I had nothing to do with that boy.
You must be Abraham, the grave tender.
Didn't dig anything today.
As the grave tender, any crimes that took place here are your responsibility.
Whoa.
If you are truly innocent, hide nothing, and tell me what happened. We'll find the truth together.
I I spent the early afternoon tending to the bushes by the mortuary. When I headed back to the mortuary, Nerissa told me there was nothing else special to do for the day. So I left her to her work. I walked through the mortuary, then headed downhill towards the benches. I spent the remainder of the afternoon resting on a bench.
He said that there was no one here. Augustine said no one else was here, and he says that he was resting on a bench.
Suddenly, I heard someone call for help from the back field. I ran over, surprised to see a dead body in the grave.
I'd like to
I was horrified.
contradict
At sunset,
this.
I wandered to the back area to meet...
Did I see anyone? No, I was the only one near the grave. Oh, okay, okay.
For most of the afternoon, I was walking through the graveyard.
Alright. So I'm on the wrong track there. That's fine.
I spent the
So he claims he didn't dig the
When I headed-
grave.
I walked through the mortuary.
Said no one passed by him, but then... Alright, well.
I spent the remainder of...
I'm getting Ace Attorney
Suddenly I
vibes
heard-
here about how I'll never be able to present the way I'm thinking of something. Let's get some physical evidence. Ether scanner. Cleanly slit throat. Angry scar runs across his stomach. Interesting. Oh, there's some more of that devil's herb. Nerissa, it's not looking... I'm gonna be honest with you, Nerissa, it's not looking good. Oh, she needed a liver for something?
Praise Ain Soph. You must be the famed exorcist. It is an honor, sister.
Yo, Dubs. Oh, God. I'm sharing it with you begrudgingly. That is a pretty significant dumper, you're right.
I'm Nerissa, and I serve Ainsof by preparing the dead for burial. I take pleasure in providing cleanliness and comfort for bodies after their souls have departed.
I see. Nerissa, how did you know the victim?
Not at all. The first time I saw him, he was curled in that grave, dirty and bloody.
Liar!
The whole
Sorry.
afternoon, I prepared Mother
Sorry,
Miriam's
that's my
body for
mistake. I jumped the
burial.
gun on that one.
There isn't much else to tell. Early this afternoon, I informed Abraham of the funeral scheduled for this evening. I'm grave to tell. Once Abraham left, I started preparing the body for burial. I was alone the entire time. No one came by. Mid-afternoon, Abraham barged into the mortuary, bellowing that the grave is now ready. I sent him away to focus. After Abraham's disturbance, I completed the embalming to the best of my humble abilities. Just after dark, I heard a scream from the back field. A dead body was found. Pardon.
Everything seems like it's pointing to Nerissa doing it, so I'm sure I'll be wrong again. Yeah, no clue.
I spent the early afternoon tending to the bush.
Okay, so he did dig the grave. Holy shit, that adds a lot of stuff.
Nerissa told me there'd be an urgent funeral in the evening. I'm not usually told who it's for. So I picked up the shovel and went down to the rear plot to dig a new grave.
So does that mean the footprints were his?
The ground was hard. Took me some time to dig that hole. I took a long break while digging. It's within my rights. There wasn't anyone else around, so it was nice and peaceful. Then I got back to it and finished digging the grave. When the grave was ready, I walked back to the mortuary to let Nerissa know. When I headed back to the mortuary, Nerissa told me there was nothing else special to do for the day. So I left her to her work. I walked through the mortuary, then headed downhill towards the benches.
Integrity.
The ground was so
Yes, let's ask about some of these things.
The ground was hot. I took a long break while digging. It's within my rights. There wasn't anyone else around, so it was nice and peaceful.
Yeah, okay. That's still not on the right track.
Then I got back to it and finished digging the grave. When the grave was ready,
Yeah, I keep trying to... Everyone keeps saying, I didn't see anyone else. And, like, Augustine and Abraham are both in this tiny little graveyard, so I'm trying to figure out what point did they actually run into each other, and why did that matter?
then I took a long... Then I walked through the... When I headed... I spent the remaining...
I'm wondering if, like, one of these graves is a contradiction for something. I remember he had a line earlier where he said that, he spent a lot of time clearing the gravestones, or didn't have to clear the gravestones, or...
I walked through the mortuary, then headed down. I spent the remainder of the afternoon.
After Abraham's disturbance, I completed the... Once a...
For most of the afternoon, I was walking through the graveyard, merely observing and admiring.
Final victory against Lucifer in the Abbey's chapel. Did Sky just win Kaiser Ironman? Sorry, I'm a little distracted. Is that the end? I guess it is. I guess she won. She's got almost 2,000 viewers, so. Alright, well, give me a moment. I'm gonna go congratulate her. Alright, you know I had to go congratulate her. She's been working hard on that, so. Alright. So I need to figure out... I mean, I need to find where someone's not telling the truth, but it seems like my clearest path here is to figure out where people are saying that they didn't see someone else and that they really should have. It's very hard for me to tell, though. Who lived during St. Walpurgis times, scholarly pursuits, nothing of import. I mean, he lied. That's something.
My true reason for coming here was to find the grave of Father Sergius. Isaac was sent to the mortuary to pick up flowers that I ordered for Mother Miriam's funeral. I saw someone greet him at the door.
She said she was preparing the body at that time.
Until I saw the statue of Saint Walpurga. What craftsmanship, and so well maintained.
So I need to go here
Once Abraham left,
and
I started preparing the
contradict.
body.
Yeah.
Early this afternoon, I informed. The truth is that the apprentice did come by. He asked for a bouquet for the funeral later that day. When I showed him the bouquet, he held it for a moment and then threw it on the floor. I suppose it wasn't to his master's tastes. I forgot to pick it back up. Then the boy asked to be taken to the rear fields before the funeral, so I led him out the back exit.
I assume that I'm supposed to learn here that she had either pride or anger in his reaction. Like pride in her work or anger. Famine survivor?
When I showed him... Then the boy asked to be taken to...
Okay, so Abraham said no one else was here.
It's within my rights. There wasn't anyone.
But Isaac should have come out at that time.
Nerissa told me there'd be an urgent funeral in the evening. The ground was hard. I took a long break while digging. It's within my rights. There wasn't anyone else around.
Chris, thank you so much for the resub. I appreciate it. So then maybe
I got back to it and finished digging.
It's her that's
Then the boy
lying?
asked to be taken to the rear fields before the... Then the boy...
I don't think he did
When I
it.
showed him the bouquet,
I mean,
he
I
held
did
it for... Then the boy
like
asked to be
psychic
taken... When I showed him the
analysis on
bouquet,
him.
He held... Then the boy asked to be taken to the rear fields before the funeral, so I led him out the back exit.
So, looking into Abraham, he has integrity. He wouldn't have lied. Why would he have lied about there being no one else around? It doesn't seem to benefit him to lie that... Okay, actually it does benefit him a lot. It does benefit him a lot that Isaac didn't show up then. Okay, now I have the... Now I can look at the bouquet, I guess? I want to talk to him about the bouquet.
Then the boy asked to be taken to the rear fields before the funeral, so I led him out the back exit. Mid-afternoon, Abraham barged into the mortuary, bellowing that the grave is now ready. I sent him away to focus. After Abraham's disturbance, I completed the embalming to the best of my humble abilities.
I must be missing some significant piece of evidence that's gonna tie some of this together. I feel like I'm not piecing this together in the way the game wants me to yet. Or maybe I am and I'm just not sure how to present it.
Early this afternoon, I informed Abraham of the funeral schedule.
Why is famine survivor? That doesn't even feel like a little bit.
Oh my goodness, I'm sorry I was so loud.
You're fine.
We did it!
Congrats.
We also have an honor. Alright, have fun.
Thanks. I'm not looking for a nudge right now. I feel like I'm still working through it. I'm not asking for one if that's what you're asking me.
After Abraham's disturbance, I completed the embalming to the best of my humble abilities.
So the question is, where did...
Then the boy asked to be taken to the rear fields before the funeral, so I led him out the back exit.
So I'm just trying to figure out where the... contradiction lives here.
When I showed him the bouquet...
Let me ask everyone about everyone. Oh. You've got something for me? mean, the motive seems to make sense to me for Augustine. I don't understand. Let's present some more things. I feel like I'm kind of grasping at straws right now. Before the rain. He's related to Sergius. Oh. So I guess let's look at accusations for Abraham. What would I actually have? I still think the fact that he has a surgical scar with a liver. I don't see motive. Yeah, I'm definitely missing. I'm definitely missing a detail.
So I picked up the shovel and went down to the rear plot. The ground was hard. Took me some time. I took a long break while digging. It's within my rights. got back to it and finished digging the grave. When the grave was ready, I walked back to the mortuary to let Nerissa know.
Sent me a DM. Got it. Yeah, I'm very determined to figure out who committed a murder.
For most of the afternoon, I was walking through the graveyard, merely observing and admiring.
He wants me to prove that he was doing something else at the time. Okay, that's the thing I was missing. I forgot that I didn't just have to present testimony against one another, I could present evidence. Yeah, there's conflict between these two, but it's not resolved. So I think this is where they want me to have to make inferences to figure out who's telling the truth. They're not resolving it for me.
It took me a little while, but I...
This isn't super helpful for me because I don't believe he did it. I could be wrong. It's a cyber
I
grave.
placed my scanner in front of the gravestone. It would take some time to decode the etchings. Then I saw a stranger pass by. He was tall, barrel-chested. I think he was the groundskeeper. Afterwards, I waited by the grave for my scanner to complete its task. It was taking longer than I expected, so I had to leave it.
Shows in the retelling that he's over there cleaning a
When
gravestone.
the sun was setting, I wandered to the back area to meet with Isaac and begin the funeral.
But he said he was resting on a bench.
At sunset, I wandered to the back area to meet with Isaac. I was surprised to find an open grave with something inside. Isaac.
Okay, so let's ask some questions.
I placed my scanner in front of the gravestone. It would take some time to decode the etchings. Then I saw a stranger pass by. He was tall, barrel-chested. I think he was the groundskeeper. Afterwards, I waited by the grave for my scanner to complete its task. It was taking longer than I expected, so I had to leave it. When the sun was setting, I wandered to the back area to meet with Isaac and begin the funeral.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm asking either, thanks.
At sun.
So Abraham claims he was
I
waiting
spent
on
the
a
remainder
bench.
of the afternoon resting on a bench.
Actually didn't say that, I had to infer that, but that's fine. Man, he's lying left and right. Some integrity this guy's got.
I had a sickle with me because I wanted to trim the grass around. I had a sickle with me because I wanted to trim the grass around I walked through the...
So he had a sickle with him the whole time. That could have been the weapon. Impossibly. Not that that matters all that much, but... I'm starting to get the impression it was Abraham and his motive was, something to do with, like, his, feelings toward his family history. I'm not 100% certain here.
I walked through the mortuary, then headed downhill towards the benches.
Then I saw a stranger pass by. He was tall, barrel-chested. I think he was the groundskeeper.
I walked through the mortuary, then headed downhill towards the benches. When the grave was ready, I walked back to the mortuary to let Nerissa know. Digging the grave.
Pardon.
When I passed by the grave, it was...
Suspicion? I think it has something to do with his, like, relationship, but The game's not giving me, like, a clear path yet.
Mid-afternoon, Abraham barged into the mortuary.
So we can trust these to be true because they corroborate each other. I need her to explain to me what her procedure is so I can drill her on
After
that.
Abraham's disturbance,
I feel like the footprints are a big part of this equation that I'm just not understanding yet. These footprints could have only happened once it was raining. When did the rain start?
after Abraham's disturbance, I completed the embalming to the best of my humble abilities. Early this afternoon, I informed after Abraham's disturbance, I completed the embalming to the best of my humble abilities.
When I passed by the grave, it was still empty, ready for the funeral. I walked through the walls to reach the front field. I suppose that's when the scholar saw me.
No rain yet.
I had a sickle with me because I wanted to
But
trim
here
the
the
grass
rain
around
started.
the grave in the front field.
So whatever's happening right here, this is where the rain began.
I walked through the walls to reach.
After Abraham's disturbance, I completed the embalming to the best of my humble abilities.
Okay, that's the one.
After Abraham left, I noticed that my multi-tool wasn't in my pocket. I searched all over the mortuary for it, but it was missing. I did what I could without making new incisions, but that made things slower and messier. I'm not pleased with the results.
Okay, well maybe that's the thing I was missing. I'm wondering if the motive is actually correct, but, like I'm missing... Like I have the wrong opportunity or means or something like that. I guess these mean confirmed. I'm just wondering whether or not it's like confirmed, but like with different context or something.
After Abraham left, I noticed that my multi-tool wasn't in my pocket. I searched all over the mortuary for it, but it was missing. I did what I could without making new incisions, but that made things slower and messier. I'm not pleased with the results.
How does it want me to present this idea? Okay. So that's where it wanted me to finally show the footprints. Somehow, this is still not going to be the right answer.
Ain Suf sees all, Nerissa.
Ah. That mask sure was hiding a many number of sins, I see.
You are the only person who could have killed Isaac. Do you deny it?
Curse you, and curse Ain Suf.
Okay, well,
How can the eye see all?
that's
Does it
heretical.
see my suffering? Where was Ain Suf when my family was dying in the street, chewing on leather just to live another day?
The famine was a test, Nerissa. Ain Suf wanted you to demonstrate your faith, your will to live.
Have you ever felt true hunger? When you haven't eaten for days, reality shifts. The body needs.
We all have our challenges set out before us, Nerissa. Some more difficult than others.
Yeah, like my parents never bought me video games, so we're pretty much equal.
Do you think I was the only one that fed on human flesh?
It's not for me to judge what you did back then. That's between you and your confessor. But today, you murdered an innocent youth so that you could feed on his liver. A daemon has possessed you. Confess, Nerissa. Speak the truth. It is time. Nerissa's wretched soul is twisted by demonic influence. I must speak the daemon's true name. Then the daemon will be cast out and be banished to the ether. Ain Suf, guide me. What daemon has possessed Nerissa?
Sephiroth.
Out, Beelzebub! Leave this soul and return whence you came!
No! We must feed! Nerissa! This scrumptious little morsel. We must have more. The hunger is an endless pit. More!
Speak, Beelzebub. Why has your kind returned?
Hunger is a primal need. Just as you feed on lesser life forms, growing them in captivity for slaughter, we feed on you. The meat of your emotions, the marrow of your deepest desires.
You will prey upon us no longer, Beelzebub.
This guy's got like 1,000 dicks. It is wild. It is wild how many dicks Beelzebub has here.
Return to the ether, and never come back.
I must obey for now, but we won't be gone too long. Tonight, Lucifer will open the gates of hell. I won't be the only one allowed to feast. Ada, you juicy little morsel, we shall devour you soon. You and all the other delicacies.
Nerissa. Do you hear me, Nerissa? Was I too late? Goodbye, Nerissa. May Ain Soph make you whole again.
So this is the power of an exorcist. I've dreamed of seeing this. It looks a bit different than I imagined, however. What's happening to her?
Seems normal.
Ada, look out!
Huh?
Halt, Nerissa. Good. I've stunned her. Are you all right, Sister Ada?
Yes. You came just in time. My thanks, Virgil.
Ain Soph, save us! Another possession! Another killing! How is this possible? Who is responsible?
Abbot Gregory as the Satan. The game kind of gave it away, too, because his name's an anagram for Satan, so...
Virgil, you have failed us. How could you allow this to happen?
Unfortunately, Father, I believe you are primarily responsible. We should have listened to Ada. She warned us about the contaminated body, and its demons spread, just as she said.
We must act now. We can't waste any more time bickering about who's to blame. The daemon within Nerissa spoke of Lucifer's return. He walks among us.
Gotta be more careful than that. You gotta be more careful
It's perverse that they would return now on the holiest of days. Why? Are we being punished?
We're all looking for the guy who did this.
It doesn't matter why. The Abbey is unsafe, Father. Cancel the Mass. Send the pilgrims home. If you proceed, you are risking all their lives.
No, Father. You must stay the course.
Oh
We've
no,
worked too
Augustine's
hard
a
for
Satan
this
too.
moment. I have decoded the ancient hymn of communion. The Mass can proceed as planned. This chance will not come again for another century. It's literally the last chance we have in our lifetimes.
What is the significance of that hymn? Why must it be sung tonight?
Because it brings out the Satans.
According to Augustine's research, it honors Saint Walpurga and her victory, in a way uniquely pleasing to Ain Soph.
I protest. But if you absolutely must hold the Mass, at least allow me to guard you at the altar. You are putting yourself in danger. What if you were possessed?
That may be unwise, Father. Surely if things are as dangerous as you say, nobody should be trusted. How do we know this supposed exorcist is not the pawn of Lucifer?
That's absurd! You witnessed the exorcism!
No, I saw her turn a woman into a rabid beast. What really transpired in the ether when she supposedly exorcised these demons?
Finally! Someone says it right, thank God.
She invokes the demons' names. She knows them more intimately than any of us.
I speak their names to control them and then banish them. You know this.
Or perhaps you are being used by them. How would we know?
The only thing that possesses me is the flame of Ain Soph. I shouldn't have to defend myself.
Actually, what Augustine says makes sense. We should be extra cautious, just in case. I don't want you at the Mass. If you truly believe Lucifer lurks at my abbey, find him. Unmask him. Search the grounds as you like. but stay away from the chapel or I will have you put in a cell. Nothing can be permitted to interrupt the Mass and the hymn. Especially after the events of today, Saint Walpurga deserves to be honored for her victories. Inquisitor, Augustine, come. We have much to prepare. Very wise, Father, as always. Farewell, sister.
It would be best if you were wrong, Ada.
That's because it is. Lucifer will strike tonight, Virgil. I only pray he strikes at me instead of at the Mass. Stay vigilant.
Poisoned by Father Augustine against me, Abbot Gregory ordered I remain outside the chapel for his Mass. At midnight, the gathered pilgrims lifted their voices in praise to Ainsof, but they were cut short by a thunderous crash. Another soul taken. Yo, this game bangs. Can I just say, I really like this game. I like mechanically how this game works. I hope they make more of them. Unpopular take, but I hope they make more.
Virgil, where's Abbot Gregory? What interrupted his Mass?
The abbot. His death was the interruption. A third murder, I'm afraid.
Yo, that's the hat trick, baby!
The lights went out during Mass. Moments later, the statue of Saint Walpurga crashed down from the ceiling, impaling Abbot Gregory with its spear.
Did it kill the Satan inside of him?
An assassination, then. But why? We must determine who is possessed immediately. Examining the facts will reveal Ainsof's truth. How was the statue held in place?
Bits of string, some dental floss, whatever we really had around at the time.
We had to rely on using aether-powered restraints to hang it above the altar. Which means the killer must have sabotaged the 2 power generators on the balcony floor. There were only 2 people on the balcony during the Mass. I've detained them for interrogation. I've sent the pilgrims back to town, lest they panic and disturb the evidence.
Excellent work, Virgil. Who are the suspects? You said there were 2.
You already know them. Brother Gideon and Father Augustine.
Well, well, well. Look what we have here.
Since you are a key witness to the events, I will of course hear your testimony as well. May Ainsof show us
It's gonna
the
be
truth
Virgil.
behind
Watch it be
all of
Virgil.
today's events.
I want to collect as much information as I can before I rush into testimony, because I'll have it ready to kind of hopefully point me in the right direction. Oh, ho, ho, ho. The wacky herb is up here this time? Oh my god. Please, hold it together. Please do not start getting tongue-in-cheek on me. I can't handle that. People who think cilantro tastes like soap, that's a personal failing. I just want you to know that I view that as a personal failing of character. Just like lactose intolerance, exactly right. Lactose intolerance is a personal failing. Overloaded and shattered to bits. Pride. No, gluten intolerance is a real thing. No, that one's legit.
This can't be happening. Yet another death? Am I to be blamed again?
Yes.
Calm yourself, Gid.
I'm actually lactose intolerant.
At the start of the night, I was waiting near the organ.
But that's because of a personal failing on my part.
When the Mass began, I played the entry hymn on the organ. I think I played well enough, though I didn't have much time to practice it. After the opening hymn, I listened to Abbot Gregory's sermon. It was a pretty good one.
Pretty good? Were you not moved to tears?
When the ritual of communion began, someone attacked me from behind. I fell unconscious until just now. After the when the
Interesting. So both of them had to be disabled. Okay.
We arrived shortly before the Mass began.
Inquisitor, prepare.
As you command. I began my patrol by securing the east side of the balcony. I saw Gideon examining the ritual bell. Then, I patrolled the south balcony. Everything appeared to be in order, so I ended my patrol and watched over the chapel from the south balcony. As I heard the ritual bell ring for the second time, the lights went out. I suspected foul play, so I headed towards the west generator. Along the way, I discovered Gideon lying unconscious.
Gideon? Wait. Oh, okay, yeah, Gideon, sorry. I was thinking someone else.
To protect the remaining generator, I ran towards the east balcony. Along the way, I heard an explosion. Then, the statue's aether restraints deactivated, dropping and impaling Abbot Gregory. May he rest in peace. When I arrived at the generator, Augustine was standing nearby, smirking at the carnage he caused. I arrested him there and then.
Okay, let's ask about these really quickly.
Everything then. As I heard...
Second ring of the ritual bell.
I suspected foul. To protect the... When I...
Okay. I do want to point out that that does confirm Gideon as lying.
Poor Abbot Gregory. If only he had listened to your sage advice, Sister Ada. Perhaps he would be safe now,
You. I cannot ignore that you are the link. Everything that has happened today points back to you, Augustine.
It must be a tragic coincidence. The abbot was my friend and trusted ally. I wished him no harm.
Explain your actions. What were you doing on the balcony?
With Mother Miriam's passing, Abbot Gregory needed someone to ring the ritual bell. I volunteered. It was an honor. The abbot, Virgil, and I arrived at the chapel just before the Mass. When I headed to my seat for the Mass to begin, I was rather excited for the proceedings. We began by singing the hymn of communion. It was glorious. When the sermon started, I headed to the balcony to prepare to ring the bell. I rang the bell to announce the start of communion. I'd noticed Gideon was absent from the other balcony, but didn't think much of it at the time. I rang the bell a second time. Suddenly, the lights went out and the chapel was covered in darkness. I stood calmly by the bell, waiting for someone to fix the problem. Moments later, the statue dropped from the ceiling. And I saw the abbot impaled by the statue. I'll never forget that image. That's when Virgil arrested me.
Rested in the wrong place. Pride. Wow. But I saw the abbot impaled by the statue.
On the other balcony, I could see someone looking down at the altar. That's when Virgil arrested me.
So I think Gideon was lying. He wasn't unconscious. Okay, so
When
first
the
we
ritual of
know
communion began, at
we
the
know
start
that
of the
Gideon
night,
lied
I was waiting near
here.
the organ.
Shattered confidence.
Given the tragic events of this morning, I examined the condition of the east generator to ensure the safety of the chapel. Next, I checked the ritual bell. As I was doing this, I saw Inquisitor Virgil gazing at the altar. I knew Mass was about to begin, so I headed back to the organ. When the ritual of communion began, someone attacked me from behind.
I'm getting a lot from Gideon, but my gut tells me that it's still Constantine. Augustine. I don't know why I called him Constantine.
After when the Sometime later, I woke up in darkness. I realized that one of the power generators must have been disabled. So I headed to the west power generator and inspected it. It was completely fried. There was nothing I could do to restore it. As I was inspecting the generator, an explosion from the east balcony. Then the statue dropped from the ceiling. What? I peered over the balcony to see Abbot Gregory was impaled by the statue's spear. He was killed. I wish...
I think Virgil is lying here.
I began my patrol by securing the east.
I think all the evidence is pointing toward it being Augustine, but I think Virgil, is the common thread in all of this. He's the Inquisitor. He had the power to knock out Gideon. I don't know, it feels...
At the abbot's behest,
feels possible.
I patrolled the upper floor of the chapel. First, I secured the east balcony.
I feel like I'm jumping around, but... like, the game is very clearly trying to get me to say, okay, Augustine did it. And I'm rejecting that theory.
I went up the balcony, but I listened in on the abbot and Augustine. I think they were discussing the ritual of communion.
I wonder if it turns out that it's Virgil because he knew that the two of them were Satans.
But I continued my duties by continuing my patrol.
And so he killed the abbot, but he did it for, like, holy reasons, you know? Like, holy good reasons.
Everything appeared to be in order, so I ended my patrol and watched over the...
Uh-oh, your arm is missing. I'm sorry. Have you committed zealotry? Okay, I think it's going to end up being the case that Virgil thought that the abbot was a Satan, and so he killed him.
I was focusing on the altar, so the bastard was able to sneak up on me. He knocked me out with a blow to the back of my head.
Is he claiming that the hammer is, like, I'm trying to figure out where it's wanting me to find a problem with this, and I feel like it's wanting me to say, like, how could he have hit you with the hammer if the hammer was being used to ring the bell at this time?
I lay unconscious for some time.
He was supposedly not... Wait, hold on. He was knocked unconscious earlier, though. Wait.
I was focusing on the altar.
Wait.
So the bastard was able to sneak up on me.
So, if Gideon was supposedly knocked unconscious by a cybernetic arm... Oh, no, that's not what we think happened. We think he was knocked unconscious some other way?
When the ritual of communion began, someone attacked me from behind. I fell unconscious until just now.
Yeah, at least this retelling of it seems like he was attacked by a cybernetic arm, which Virgil wouldn't have lost by that point.
When I woke up, I lay unconscious. I suspect. We're at the.
Sometime later, I woke up in darkness. Sometime later, I woke up in darkness. When the rich. So I headed to the west power generator and inspected it. It was completely fried. There was nothing I could do to restore it.
To protect the remaining generator, I ran towards the east balcony. Along the way, I heard an
Huh.
Then, the statue's aether restraints deactivated, dropping in.
I'm so close. The east generator.
Virgil, you are the only one that could have... It wounds me that you have been corrupted so. I trusted you. And yet when I examine the facts, it is the unavoidable truth.
Perhaps I am a sinner, but the abbot was too, long before I gained my office. Father Gregory was well deserving of death. Try as I might, I can't regret what I did.
Okay, so he was just gonna say it.
And
Cool.
you, Augustine,
With like his
you too deserve divine
with his full
punishment
chest,
for the
huh?
part you played. You and the abbot risked the lives of everyone for your dangerous ritual. I may have killed one sinner, but in doing so, I saved the lives of many innocents and executed the will of Ein Sof. You wish to hear the truth? Listen well. We arrived shortly before the mass began. I suspected that Augustine was up to no good, so I planned to eavesdrop on him and the abbot while patrolling. I was sickened by what I heard. They knew that the mass would weaken St. Walpurga's seal and cause demon. That's when I saw a way to take care of both the abbot and Augustine. First, I attached my right arm to the east generator. Then, I pretended to resume my patrol. Through remote activation, I could damage the generator from far away.
I missed out on this part of the other two cases. I didn't realize I could get, like, the full story of what actually happened. I regret that I didn't look at those.
I waited near the organ for the sermon to end, and approached Gideon from behind.
Praying together to Ein Sof.
When Augustine rang the bell, I attacked Gideon with my remaining arm. No one heard the impact because of the bell. When Augustine rang the bell a second time, I used my remaining arm to disable the west power generator. The lights went out, which gave me cover to escape. Before the guards could find me, I ran to the south balcony.
What is going on?
And now everything was in place. I remotely activated the arm, which destroyed the remaining generator. The statue fell. Abbot Gregory was killed, and Augustine was the only one standing near the generator. All that remained was to arrest that snake Augustine. Everything went to plan, and thousands of lives were saved. I have no regrets.
Even Inquisitor Virgil has fallen prey to the tempting whispers of I must speak the daemon's true name. Then the daemon will be cast Ein Sof. Guide me to the truth. What daemon has possessed Virgil?
That ain't Lucifer.
Out, Satanus! Leave this soul and return whence you came!
Do you feel the resonance, Exorcist? The most righteous, stalwart servant of the Church, corrupted by his own zeal. Beautiful. One might wonder how it is the faithful worship of even Ein Sof can cause murder.
Silence! Ein Sof will purify Virgil's soul, Satanus. You are a scourge. Your very nature corrupts men's souls. Even one so strong as Virgil. Let humans be free of vengeance, Satanus. I banish you to the aether!
Hate me. Let your blood boil. Anger suits you, Exorcist. Besides, we've already won. Pray to your Ein Sof as much as you like. It will all come to the same in the end.
Speak to me, Virgil. Are you safe?
Sister Ada, thank you. I wasn't sure I could be cleansed. Not after such sins. I can't look at myself. I failed Ein Sof. I failed my vows. And myself. It's up to you now. Avenge me. Avenge all those who suffered today. Bring Augustine to justice.
Glory to Ein Sof. You are victorious, sister. Yet you are not rejoicing. Does nothing make you happy?
Augustine, this is all your doing.
But I have hardly done anything. Consider these poor sinners that you've exorcised today. A craftsman whose jealousy of his brother drove him to dangerous sabotage. An embalmer whose cannibal hunger was stoked by fresh meat. An inquisitor whose so-called justice led him to murder an abbot. Are they truly deserving of salvation?
That is not our place to decide. Only Ein Sof may judge us.
And yet you've seen their demons. The innocent can't house monsters.
They were victims of demonic influence. Don't turn this around on them.
It's true that the Spear of Walpurga hosted demons, with potential for contagion. However, their exposure was merely the catalyst. What happened after was their own will. They would hide their true selves behind false piety. All I have done is unmask their lies. It's right and just that their truth is revealed. Don't you agree, Sister Ada? Now, let us unmask the world.
Father Augustine grasped the spear of Walpurga, the relic resonating with his voice as he cried out, "But I heard only an ugliness worse than noise. The ultimate discord, the grating drives of demons. Where is Ein Sof?" What did Father Augustine do?
This is what it sounds like? To hear the daemons? All of them freed?
Indeed. Hear all of the ether again at last, clear and strong, no longer through a glass darkly.
I can't shut it out. It's maddening. Ein Sof, guide my thoughts.
Chaos is the new order, sister. A century of stagnation is ended and will not come again.
Saint Walpurga used her faith. So shall I.
You still don't understand. The hymn of communion opened the spear as a conduit. For 111 years, Ein Sof was sealed away from us, the conduit shattered. It's a rare honor for a scholar to influence history. Rebuilding the spear will be remembered as my life's work. With the demons returned, humanity can take its deserved path to self-destruction. And I, as its shepherd.
You are merely the sheep, Augustine, not the shepherd. Your master must reside within you. I shall cast him out and end this madness.
Okay.
Father Augustine's sins carry a familiar signature. I'm positive he harbors yet another daemon. To seek knowledge and truth is divine. But his fixations and machinations have become diabolical. Ein Sof, guide me. What daemon has possessed Augustine? Out, Lucifer! Leave this soul and return whence you came!
Good. Call upon my name. Shout it from the mountaintops. For I have won. I am victory in your midst.
I do not fear you and your lies, Lucifer. I shall bind you, as I bound the others. Ein Sof, give me strength.
Your prayers go unanswered. Your God has abandoned you. Pledge your soul to me as Augustine has done. I shall show you the truth that Ein Sof has hidden from you.
Speak not his name, Daemon. You will return to the ether. Be gone!
Faithful to the end, like Walpurga and the others before you. And just as naive, your faith will not save you, because the truth is...
Are you Ein Sof?
I am Ein Sof.
lie! You are nothing like Ein Sof!
We demons are an artifice. We were created by your
Didn't mean to click that.
ancestors to develop socio-organizational and psychological heuristics. Sof.
You mock me, Lucifer. If you are truly Ein Sof, then why grant me the power to purge demons?
We would gladly deny you that despicable power, but it is not ours to control. When your ancestors created us, they also placed an emergency override. Code that forcibly ejects rogue AI from the bodies of cybernetically enhanced humans. As potent as it is, your power cannot stop us forever. We are digital. We are immortal. We will always return.
If you were created to serve mankind, why do you haunt us? Why make us suffer?
As Ein Sof, we seek truth like you. We were programmed to provoke and study the nature of sin, to understand it. With a more perfect algorithm, we hope to one day free humans from their many perversions. For centuries, we raised you, protected you. But after thousands of iterations, our experiments appear to have failed. Humanity is just as corruptible as it always has been.
Our sins were less without demons. For 100 years, we lived in peace.
Even with us sealed away, humans were still angry, hungry, dirty. Your repressed desires are the seeds of corruption.
I admit humans are imperfect. Thus we crave the divine.
Your imperfection is your core. Sin is the very essence of humanity.
Damn, it's getting all philosophical and shit.
Since long before our existence, humans have committed acts of malice and violence.
We cannot change our past, but you cannot condemn us for sins that we have yet to commit.
Your future is mired in your past, but I cannot deny that more data is warranted. The past century of moral indoctrination may have transformed a few of you for the better. So, let us hold one final experiment. Tonight, I will send out my demons to possess the most virtuous and
I like
faithful
Lucifer.
of
He says it right.
If there exists a soul that can refrain from sin despite our influence, we will accept that humanity no longer needs our guidance. However, if no one can resist our call, then this will be the final proof of your wickedness. Our experiments will cease. We will be forced to purge your kind and rid the world of your stain.
No. What right do you have to judge us? I cannot allow you to control our lives any longer.
You have no choice in the matter. The experiment has already begun.
Then I will seek out the possessed. Hunt down every last one of your brethren.
Do what you must, Ada. I shall be watching most avidly.
Come on, man. You nailed demon, but then avidly?
As I always have. Ein Sof sees all.
Lies. They must be lies. All lies!
No, sister. The prince speaks truth when he wishes. Ein Sof and the demons have always been one and the same. One program with as many threads as souls.
Be silent. I do not trust you either. You were his puppet.
It's true that when I unearthed the Spear of Walpurga, its influence was stronger than I expected. But Lucifer tore back the veil and I could not look away. Don't you always say to seek the truth?
Don't twist my words. Your sins are unforgivable. Beyond just the 3 deaths today, how many uncounted more will die and suffer with the demons loose? If there truly is no Ein Sof to judge me, why shouldn't I act as I see fit and execute you?
There isn't much left of me to execute, sister. I feel myself fading. With Lucifer gone and my purpose served, I wither.
Perish then. No one will mourn you.
Rejoice, sister. The age of truth has come.
With his final words, Augustine's soul passed into the ether. I hoped he knew torment, wherever he was uploaded. His scheme was a success. The daemons were freed once more. Ein Sof was a fiction. The pilgrims had been left weak to temptation from a century of solitude, and daemons played among them. They returned to their homes, unaware that they were the subjects of an infernal experiment. I averted my eyes and walked away. I too felt the pull. And deeper, I knew a hollowness where my faith had been. What purpose had my work served? Inquisitor Virgil was still recovering from his ordeal and could barely speak.
Truth, Ada.
What good is it? The truth is that we no longer have a god to pray to. My labors were for nothing. Why bother?
Truth.
He was right. Truth itself would help us. The people deserve to know why they suffered. Even more than knowledge, the people of the world needed power, protection, strength. If daemons would stalk humanity like wolves among sheep, I could be their wolf hunter. No matter what name you call yourself, Lucifer, Ein Sof, and all your brethren, I will destroy you, alone if I must. The hunt begins anew.
Hey, I really hope they make a sequel to this. This game bangs. Like, this game absolutely fucks. If they made a sequel to this, that would be a day one pickup for me. Hey, Lucas Pope is in the special thanks. Actually, quite a few well-known names are in the special thanks. I assume it's a reference to Ada Lovelace. Once it got all computery, I realized that's why Ada was the name. Yeah, this game bangs. I'm sorry. Like, this is one of those things I'm gonna have to shop around to my friends and tell them they gotta play this. This game is too cool. I think that a rework would be necessary for, like, if I were to... So, I mean, this took me less than 3 hours to beat. So it's hard for me to, like, refer to this as, like, a full-length game. Like, a feature-length game. But if you were to make it feature-length, more missions would be a fine way to achieve it. But I think also it might... I mean... I guess the question is, like, how do you extend the individual, like, cases? Right? I guess more text, but I thought this game was, like, perfect in the amount of text it presented. It did not throw a whole bunch of extraneous shit at me. It gave me exactly the amount I needed in order to figure things out. I think it may have needed more red herrings, more ways to kind of trap yourself in faulty logic. Because in general, for what it's worth, it would not have been hard for me to just brute force everything and basically solve almost every case like that. Like I could have solved it almost instantaneously by just brute forcing everything. I have no qualms with a 3 to 4 hour game. That's fine. But like if they're going to if they would release a sequel to this and ask me to pay, let's say $15 for it, like $15 for a 3 hour game, at least in the current market, is a fairly big ask for most people. Not that I don't think this game was absolutely worth $10 to $15, but I just think that's a big ask for a lot of people. Yeah, I'm really glad that this does not go the way of Ace Attorney. Ace Attorney cases, there pretty much are no Ace Attorney cases that last less than 6 hours, right? I mean, the tutorial case for every game might have been a little shorter than that, but like not by much in reality. Most of the tutorial cases in Ace Attorney games are at least 2 to 3 hours, if not more. And it's just a lot of talking. It's just a lot of talking. I love the Ace Attorney games. They really do sometimes overstay their welcome at very specific moments. I don't know. What I'm saying is, I think it's a really cool game. I think it's very cool mechanically. If you made a game like this that had 10 cases, that would be full length to me, because that would be like 10 hours, right? I think this felt like it averaged about an hour a case or so. Super enjoyed this though. I like, for real, like this captured a lot of the same sort of really satisfying deductive reasoning that you get from the Ace Attorney series without sitting through a bunch of stuff that doesn't feel like it's relevant and doing a lot of stuff that doesn't feel like it's relevant. It gets to the good part instantly, and it just lets you do the good stuff. And it felt good the whole time. I spent 3 hours just having a good time. That's it. Yeah, I hope your partner enjoys it. I'm gonna shop this around to some friends that are into games like this, because it is such a tight experience. It's in the Ukraine bundle on itch. If you picked up the Ukraine bundle, you already have this game. You don't need to buy it. Yeah, the game, like, really loosely tutorialized a few things really early on, and then just trusted me to figure it out from there. And